Were you obsessed with collecting all those power stars in Super Mario 64 back in the 90s like me? Then you're gonna love all the secrets and history I'm gonna share in this video. Let's get started. If this is your first time here at the channel, my name is Tyler, and if you love gaming from all generations like we do here at G3, then consider hitting that subscribe button and hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss anything. Can you remember exactly where you were when you saw the Nintendo 64 for the first time? I know I will never forget waiting in a line of about 10 kids in the electronics department at Walmart. All of our eyes were glued to a CRT monitor mounted on top of the video game display case. Of course, the game on the screen was Super Mario 64, and I was absolutely mesmerized. Like I've said before here on the channel, I didn't have a Super Nintendo growing up, so the last Mario game I had really played was Super Mario 3 on the NES. So to see a 3D Mario game was pretty mind-blowing. So my first memories of the game are running up that stone hill with the yellow arrows, and I remember thinking to myself how Mario's red and blue colors looked so vivid, and how surprised I was that maneuvering Mario with the control sticks felt so natural to me. The original concept for what ultimately became Mario 64 was actually brainstormed in the early 90s, 5 years before the release of the Nintendo 64. This was while director Shigeru Miyamoto was developing Star Fox for the SNES along with the Super FX chip creator Argonaut Software. Miyamoto dreamed of making a 3D Mario title using this new technology, with his initial idea based on a miniature 3D Mario world, but it didn't really get past the concept stages, and he decided to wait until the next generation before he really dived into another Mario title. Because he knew the new controller technology was going to have many more buttons, which would allow for a much better gameplay experience. There are urban legend style rumors of a Super Mario FX game that was in development back in the early 90s, but one of the Argonaut software engineers, Dylan Cuthbert, said these rumors are false and that Super Mario FX was just a code name used for the Super FX chip itself, and that no actual game had really been made. The development team, Nintendo EAD, previously known as Nintendo R&D 4, took around 3 years to bring Super Mario 64 to life, with the entire first year just consisting of concept and design, and the final 2 years being dedicated to actual software development. The directors were the already legendary Shigeru Miyamoto and Takashi Tezuka, along with Miyamoto's protege Yoshiaki Koizumi, who joined Nintendo in 1991. And it's no surprise the composer was Koji Kondo, who has so many masterful musical accomplishments in both the Mario and Zelda franchises. The team first came up with an isometric style for the game that had a similar look to Super Mario RPG, but they soon switched to a 3D open world style of gameplay, which forced the developers to tackle problems they never encountered before with Mario. Miyamoto discussed how prior to Mario 64, they were used to programming each Mario level pixel by pixel, and they had complete control over the number of pixels Mario could jump, and they would design levels based on precision platforming. But in a 3D environment, it's hard to tell precisely where Mario is with respect to the area you want to jump to, so they had to make the jumps more forgiving and less precise in order to make it a fair experience for the player. Since the jumping mechanics in Mario 64 were such a headache to program, it's one of the reasons they didn't incorporate a jump button into Ocarina of Time, which Nintendo EAD were actually developing at the same time as Mario 64. That's why there were so many puzzle Zelda-like elements in this Mario game, like the bookshelves and pyramid puzzles. Miyamoto was quoted saying, "For me, Mario and Zelda exist side by side. Their basic gameplay elements are the same, with the only difference being that one focuses on action and the other on puzzle solving. They're always developed at the same time, and lots of good ideas from Mario get used in Zelda, and vice versa." The other major 3D designing challenge was the ability of the player to take control of the camera, but I don't feel the developers took this challenge as a nuisance, because Miyamoto said he liked to think of Mario 64 as an interactive cartoon with customizable visuals and special fun Nintendo attentions to detail, like having Lakitu be the in-game cameraman. And little did they know they were pioneering camera mechanics that would inspire many future successful developers. Mario's motions were now more versatile than ever in a 3D world, and special attention was made to just make moving Mario around a fun experience. Most of Mario's motions are centered around his hips, which allows for exaggerated movements when going in any direction, like leaning forward heavily when he accelerates. Miyamoto says Mario's movements are similar to Arale Norimaki, who is a popular and energetic anime character from the Dr. Slump series. Mario had nearly 250 different motion patterns animated and programmed by Yasunari Nishida and Yoshiaki Koizumi, and 193 of them made it into the final game. And you can also thank Koizumi for another critical design to help with players' depth perception of controlling Mario, and that was the round shadow added underneath each object in the game, including Mario, to help make sure you were in the correct spot in all 3 dimensions. Now, to test how Mario's animations and movements would interact with the 3D environment, the team used a golden rabbit named Mips, who actually made his way into the final game as that annoying rabbit you had to chase around to get a secret star. MIPS is an acronym for the Nintendo 64's architecture processors, meaning microprocessor without interlocked pipeline stages. Development continued until November of 1995 when a playable version of Super Mario 64 was presented as part of a Nintendo 64 premiere at Nintendo's trade show called Nintendo Space World. The game was only halfway completed at this point, but this version featured a whopping 32 courses, but the game looked a little crude since only 2% of the mapping was complete. The game had an overall positive response, but some players spoke of the controls as being, and I quote, wobbly and slippery. So this made Miyamoto and his team dig in and tighten those controls and finalize their first 3D Mario title for release the next year. They even had children come in and playtest the game on the first King Bob-omb stage, with one of those kids being Miyamoto's son. As he watched his son not be able to make it to the top of the hill to fight the king, Miyamoto said, "Geez, does this kid have any brains? This guy is savage." Super Mario 64 was finally released on June 23, 1996 in Japan, September 29th in the US, and in Europe on March 1st, 1997. My parents knew I wanted the console for my birthday in September, but we couldn't find it anywhere in October and most of November. Finally, on Black Friday, shopping with my mom, we found a Nintendo 64 console and a copy of Super Mario 64 in a small local department store called Magic Mart. What made it even crazier was that I'd already came up empty at Babbage's and Toys R Us that day, and I really didn't even want Mom to stop at Magic Mart on the way home, but man, I'm glad she did. I still remember seeing that box behind the glass for the first time with Mario and his new flying wing cap, and that first vision of the giant 3D Bowser on the back of the box was so exciting. Can you believe I didn't throw away the instruction manual this time? It still looks pretty great today, and here are a few of the highlights. The story unfolds with Mario receiving an invitation from Princess Peach to come to the castle cause she's baked him a cake. But once Mario arrives, he hears an ominous voice telling him no one's home, now scram. This could only be the work of Bowser. The story serves as both a narrative for the game and a quick tutorial on where to get started by telling you Mario searched all over the castle and was only able to find the largest painting he has ever seen, and he's drawn into it to discover the other world inside. He soon finds out that Bowser has kidnapped the princess once again and stolen the power stars which protect the castle, and Mario makes it his quest to recover all 120 of the power stars and save Peach once again from Bowser and his minions. Next, the manual introduces the opening screen with Mario's face that was specifically designed for players to get familiar with the new Nintendo 64 controller. There are great written and visual explanations of how to control Mario, and you're introduced to so many new moves that he was never capable of in the 2D games, like the triple jump, the side somersault, and my personal favorite, the long jump. I also enjoy the backward somersault too. That animation just always looks so smooth to me, and it's pretty crucial in nailing that top quarter jump into the wet dry world painting. You also learn the new swing mechanic used to fight Bowser, where you grab him by the tail and swivel that control stick in a circular motion to send him launching to a nearby bomb. The manual reveals the castle contains 15 main courses, with each containing 6 power stars hidden in each one. There are also 15 secret stars hidden throughout the castle. And don't forget, you can get 100 coins in each course to get an additional power star to bring the total up to 120 stars. You're also introduced to the pink Bob-omb buddies, who you get to access hidden cannons throughout the game to launch Mario all over the place to find some power stars, and I have to admit, shooting Mario out of that cannon is quite a bit of fun. Mario also has access to 3 new caps in Mario 64. The red wing cap that allows you to fly, the green metal cap that has special abilities like walking on the ocean floor or invincibility to fire or toxic gases, and the blue vanish cap that allows Mario to pass through enemies, wire nets, or special walls. And don't forget, Mario can actually lose his cap in this game, like when that idiot bird named Klepto steals your hat in Shifting Sand Land. And you better get it back, because Mario will take more damage without his lucky cap. You get a nice tips section at the end of the manual in case you run out of ideas on how to find the power stars. Or if you're looking for some ways to save Mario's power, like ground pounding before you hit the ground if you fall from a high spot so you'll take less damage. Now that we've tackled the development and basics for Mario 64, let's cover some of my favorite gameplay highlights, secrets, and Easter eggs. One of my favorite additions to Mario 64 was all the voice elements Mario has. And of course he was voiced by the same actor who plays him even to this day, named Charles Martinet. I thought for years this was the first time Martinet voiced Mario in a game, but it was actually the second. The first game Martinet took on the role of our favorite Brooklyn plumber was in the 1995 PC title called Mario's Game Gallery. The game was a compilation of generic games published by Interplay where you play dominoes, checkers, and go fish against Mario. I have to admit the voice quality and graphics were surprisingly pretty good, and it's definitely not as bad a game as I thought it was going to be. But we all know Martinet exclaiming, "It's me, Mario," in Super Mario 64 is what made this man a living legend. Now my friends and I always speculated that when you collected all 120 stars that it had to unlock some special secret. And we all agreed that mystery cannon with a grate over top of it in front of the castle was probably connected to that secret. We figured you could shoot yourself on top of the castle and find Luigi, but now we all know it's actually Yoshi that's up there. But more on Yoshi here in a bit. But there was actually more controversy surrounding Luigi being a part of Mario 64. In the courtyard in the back of the castle where you enter Big Boo's haunt, there's a fountain that has a star-topped statue with an illegible inscription underneath. Some people believe it reads L is real 2401 and thought the L stood for Luigi and he could somehow be unlocked in the game. Others think it's some prophecy pertaining to Luigi being in Paper Mario, which didn't release until February 5th, 2001. But in a written response letter from Nintendo when a fan asked about the inscription back in 1998, they said the programmers put the inscription in there as a joke. Oddly enough, the inscription made it into the Ocarina of Time as well. Some people believe the inscription simply states Eternal Star, which in all honesty seems legit to me. Luigi was originally supposed to be in Mario 64, where they wanted to have Mario and Luigi start in separate areas of the castle and eventually make their way through together. But Miyamoto said it ultimately came down to memory issues and Luigi's part had to be scrapped. Now Yoshi was originally supposed to have a small part in the game as well, but the team wasn't satisfied with the end result and it didn't make the final cut either. But they didn't want to waste all that hard work they put into making the 3D model of Yoshi, so that's why they made him appear at the top of the castle at the end of the game. But visiting Yoshi isn't the only secret you unlock when you get all the power stars. For starters, Yoshi gives you 100 lives and you will now have a glitter effect when you perform a triple jump. And if you go back and defeat the final Bowser in the sky, he has a few new messages for Mario when he figures out he's collected all 120 stars. And for whatever reason, the penguin you race in Cool Cool Mountain is now ginormous and poses a much more difficult challenge for Mario to race. And did you ever take time to look at the pillars just before that final fight with Bowser? There are a few etchings on the pillars that look like a throwback to a very familiar boss fight on the NES. What I find so fascinating about this game is how it was such a great visual and technical accomplishment at the time, and the development team didn't really know exactly what kind of system the N64 was going to be. Miyamoto discussed how the development of Super Mario 64 was taking place at the same time the Nintendo 64's hardware was. This meant that the team had to use another computer to basically guess how the 64's technology was supposed to work. And luckily everything came together when they finally got a working demo to test the game with. Miyamoto said, "That's why I say this, and it's no exaggeration, but we only used about 60% of the N64's capabilities in this game. No, actually, if you look at everything, maybe only 40. Since developing the game entailed so much guesswork, there are a massive number of glitches that people way more intelligent than me have uncovered over the years, but I have a couple favorites. First are the multiple ways gamers have been able to access the awesomely named Black Room of Death. This is actually a small space located in the loading zones of the game that players aren't supposed to be able to access, with some of them being actually impossible to exit without resetting the console. My favorite glitch is to watch people perform the backwards long jump tricks, or BLJ tricks as the cool kids call them. For example, if you have 16 stars and perform this maneuver through the upstairs power star door and the endless staircase, you can make it to the final Bowser fight with only a few stars. This glitch works on the original Japanese, US, and European versions, but this glitch was actually patched in the updated 1997 Japanese Super Mario 64 Shindao version, which added other significant changes like Rumble Pack support and all of the Mario voice acting that was included in the US and European versions but not the original Japanese release. And my favorite Easter egg is one that was allegedly found for the first time 20 years after the game's initial release, and it's located in Bob-omb Battlefield. As you first make your way up the mountain to face King Bob-omb, you probably noticed the giant balls you had to avoid near the base of the mountain. And on your first trip up, there are only 2 balls moving around the pit. But once you defeat the king and come back to this area, there are now 3 balls, which means that the king has lost his royal status, and even the pink cannon guys will confirm that Big Bob-omb is nothing but a big dud now. And the next time you feel like taking down Bowser and are watching the game's end credits, make sure you have another controller plugged in the second port, because you can actually move the camera with your control stick to experience the ending in your own way, much to Miyamoto's delight. Mario 64 is one of those games that I believe we will always be finding more secrets and glitches we can all enjoy. Super Mario 64 was the highest selling Nintendo 64 game, and over 11 million copies have been sold. It's also one of the best reviewed games of all time, receiving multiple 9 or higher out of 10 scores from major gaming publications and a perfect 10 out of 10 score from Edge magazine. It's on numerous best games of all time lists, and its popularity extends well beyond the 90s. Like the Super Mario 64 DS launch title from 2004, where you can actually play as Mario, Yoshi, Luigi, and Wario. And Super Mario 64 was the second most popular virtual console game on the Wii by 2007, only second to the original Super Mario Bros. On the NES. But what if I told you playing Super Mario 64 could be critical for your health? Well, according to a Public Library of Science article, playing Super Mario 64 for 6 months seemed to improve memory and actually increase the amount of gray matter in the brains of older adults from ages 55 to 75. Especially the hippocampus, which is critical for memories and may potentially help improve memory-related symptoms in conditions such as Alzheimer's disease. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check out the full article. So remember, if anyone ever gives you a hard time about playing Super Mario 64, just tell them this game is scientifically proven to not rot your brain. Make sure to like this video and leave a comment about some of your favorite Super Mario 64 secrets and memories. And we want to give a shout out to Go Fast Daddy for finding Mullet Boy hidden in the VHS case in our last Pixel Rip 1989 video. Till next time guys, G3 out. Hey look, you made it to the end of the video. I've had a few people ask if there was any way we could support the channel, and I wanted to let you know we do have a Patreon account that you can access with the link here at the top of the screen, or the one I'll put in the description. I don't like talking about this kind of stuff and no one's obligated, but I'm just giving you the option if you're interested, and all proceeds will always go back into bringing you better content here at G3. Have a good one guys, and thanks for watching.